Good morning, everybody. Wait a minute. Good morning, I said. There you are. Oh, man. No, y'all have such a fun energy this morning. It's great to see you. Great to have you here in person. Great to have you all with us online. My name is Katie. My pronouns are she, her. And we would like to start singing together this morning. So as you are able, you can rise or stand, and we'll start by singing. Ruling with equity, reigning with empathy in the name of love. I see a king standing with those in need, welcoming refugees in the name of love. I see a king making it all like new, turning the sad untrue. Governing every place, cherishing every race in the name of love. I see the glory of the Lord fill the corners of the world, like a river to the desert He restores. I can hear the earth rejoice, clap your hands and shout for joy, singing great is the King. Technical glitch. Let's go back to the beginning now that we'll have the lyrics. That happens sometimes. Let's do I see a king ruling with equity. I see a king ruling with equity, reigning with empathy in the name of love. Is this still doing it? There we go. I see a king standing with those in need, welcoming refugees in the name of love. I see a king making it all. I see a king making it all like new, turning the sad untrue in the name of love. I see a king governing every place, cherishing every race in the name of love. I see the glory of Don't y'all love technology? It is so fun sometimes. Did you like that song, Lucy? Thank you. Yeah, y'all can actually have a seat for just a moment, a brief moment, because we're going to connect with each other in a minute. But first, I want to remind you all of our worship wall here in the back, or if you've never been here before and you're like, what's a worship wall? It's just a place where we offer another tangible way for you to engage in worship. A lot of times we do creative things. During this series, we're just doing a very simple, you can just walk back there, take a card, and leave. And on those cards are little challenges or things for you to think about that relate to our 4 main values as a church, and which we've been talking about during this sermon series. So what you're going to do is you walk back there, take a card out of the envelope, and take it home with you. And it'll give you something to think about or something to do in which you can go live out our values into the world. And kids, the bottom row are ones geared specifically for children. So if you are a kid, you can go grab one of those cards on the bottom row. Cool? All right. It is important that we connect with each other every week, because this thing we do that is church, it's not just to come and consume and leave. We engage with each other. We want to get to know each other. And this can oftentimes be a little bit awkward, striking up conversations with strangers or people that you vaguely know. But that's the point. We want to get to know each other. So we're going to give you a question of something to talk about and think about. Today's question: what is your favorite genre? Of anything. Could be literature, movies, music. What's your favorite genre? That's one part. The second part is, what's an example of something you like that's not in your preferred genre? So like, Jared, what was your example? You really like classic rock.
Said classic rock and Brad Paisley.
Yes. And people online, drop that in the comments, what your answers are too. So we're going to get back up, move around a little bit, chat with someone you don't know as well yet, and talk about these questions.
I'm going to try something. We're going to try something. I'm just going to... It's not going to work.
No.
Clap once if you can hear me. Clap twice if you can hear me. Clap 3 times if you can hear me. I did a test to see if we could just stand up here and people would calm down, and you didn't. Good for you. Hey, good morning. It is great to be with you on this beautiful morning. We have the windows open. Woohoo! My name is Jeremy. I'm the pastor here of the Grove, Cottage Grove. We are a brand new church that exists to grow goodness. We hope that every interaction that you have with each other, with us, online is nurturing healing, wholeness, and beauty in your life.
My name is Miranda. I'm one of the church members here, and I'd like to bring everybody's attention to the pamphlet that you have here. There's a few things I want to point out. One is going to be on the inside of it. You'll notice here there's a little box that if you want to fill that out, it just lets us know a little bit more about you, a little bit that you're here. There's also some things to take a look at on the back here. The other thing is ways to give here. You can Venmo. There's a link that you can click on as well, but you don't want to do it when you're online because it'll boot you off. And then there'll also be a basket that comes around. In that basket, you can also put that little sheet that you filled out too.
I am going to turn your attention now to the back of this. So there's 3 things to know. These are the 3 most important things that are going on or about to go on that we want to draw your attention to. And then I also want you to have that in one hand, and I want you to have the insert in the other hand, okay? So the first thing to know, we have an increasing number of teenagers who are coming through our doors. That's amazing. That's not the case with most new church starts. So what we're hoping to do is we're hoping to put together some sort of offering for our teenagers, but also have that built and developed by the people who care, like the teenagers and their families, or those who like working with teenagers. So we're going to, for one more week, we're going to try to recruit people, including teenagers, their families, or those who like to work with teens, to put together a team that says, hey, this is actually what we want a Grove Group offering to be for our teenagers. If you fit any one of those 3 categories, what I want you to do is fill out the worship insert and then check off the Grove Groups and maybe write teen next to it. There should be pens in each one of the pews. Number 2 announcement, outdoor worship. We're starting outdoor worship in 2 weeks. Yes, it's going to be amazing. There's going to be changes that are coming, though, and one of those changes is that we're going to have to do setup every week. Boo. It's going to be great. It's going to be worth it. But we're going to need some additional hands to help with setting up staging and equipment. If you are interested in showing up a little bit early on rotation, not every single week, but helping out with that setup, go ahead and indicate volunteer opportunities and then maybe put outdoor worship. And then the last one is also on May 29th, as long as we're actually outside, it's going to be Bring Your Pet to Church Sunday. So what we want you to do is we want you to bring your dog, we want you to bring your cat. Anybody have a leashed cat? I think somebody, maybe it was Kai who raised the hand last week too. Bring your cat, bring your guinea pig, I think we said last week, any pet that won't be eaten by another one of the pets that are here. You're welcome to bring. We're going to have a great time outdoors in worship, and then we're going to have a little section of the service where we're doing a pet blessing. So that's 2 weeks from now. So think through what pet you're going to bring or who else you know who would enjoy that opportunity.
Also, kids are huge here at the Grove. You'll notice in the pews there are coloring sheets for all ages, along with clipboards and crayons. To the side there, we've got a little play area for the children to color on the walls, play with soft blocks. In a few moments here, we're actually going to sing the children off to Godly Play, where they can play and build relationships with all the other children here.
And we're going to do that like right now. Right?
Yeah, we're doing it a little bit early today. So kiddos, you can go ahead and get up and head out to Godly Play, and we'll sing you off with a song. Jesus loves the little children, all the children of the world. Every color, shape, and type, they are precious in His sight. Jesus loves the little children of the world.
All of those kids, that is so amazing. Okay, we're doing something a little bit different this morning that we just added in this morning because it's like, you know what? It's something that we want to pay attention to and want to acknowledge. So over the course of this month, we've been in this series. You're going to hear more about it once we get into the sermon called Back to Basics. What we've been doing is we've been focusing on our values as a church. Last week, we talked about our value of expanding our circle of inclusion. which means that we want to be open and inviting and including and integrating into the vitality of our church people of all different backgrounds. So that was last week. And then this week, we are talking about cultivating the common good, which means it's like an active faith. And even especially this comes out in like justice-related issues. Justice is not something that's on the side of our faith, but it's like it's an integral piece of what it means to be a follower of Jesus, to be engaged in justice work. And you may or may not be aware that yesterday there was another mass shooting in Buffalo, New York. 13 people were shot, 10 of them were killed. 11 of those 13 people were black. Usually, law enforcement doesn't come out and make claims while there's an unfolding investigation. From the very beginning, law enforcement came out and said, this was a racially motivated attack that is being investigated and will likely be charged as a hate crime. So as those who want to expand our circle of inclusion and cultivate the common good, people who care about justice work, especially when it comes to racial justice, we thought, you know what, this is something we want to bring up and we want to be prayerful about. Several months ago, I think it was in February, there was the killing of Amir Locke in Minneapolis, and Katie reached out to a friend of hers who writes liturgies, and he wrote a prayer specifically for us here in Cottage Grove to address the situation. And what we've done this morning is we've just changed some of the language. Unfortunately, a lot of the language of this prayer still resonates with this situation, but we changed it specifically to fit what's going on now, and goes on a lot. So you're welcome. I'm gonna read this liturgy, this prayer. You're welcome just to follow along. We've got it up here on the screen so you can read as I'm reading. So do whatever you need to do to enter into a brief time of prayer over this. God, who created all to be in harmony, in shalom, and yet sees the conflict and injustices in our world, in our country, in our hometown. Today we come to you with various emotions and thoughts regarding the events of this week. Some of us are disturbed and disheartened by yet another mass shooting, this one clearly racially motivated. We've seen it too many times to be surprised, too many times to think this will be the last. Some of us are heartbroken that this is a problem in our country, that life has become so valueless that cutting 10 short is commonplace. That a child, a sibling, a cousin, a friend, now gone forever. That death has won in a violent act. Others of us don't have much to say about this, for what we think and feel may seem unkind. For those of us who hear of it on the news, yet it has little impact on our daily lives due to where we live, where we spend our time, where we feel safe. As we reflect and put our focus on the injustice and ongoing repercussions of a racial divide, we understand that this systemic issue is one that began long before us, but that also persists due to our lack of action. Jesus, show us in small, tangible, eye-opening ways how we play a role in these tragedies of injustice. How our perspectives and experiences are shaped by our privilege, our status, our discomforts. Spirit, make things uncomfortable for us that we won't remain still, that we will be moved to speak up, to stand up, to demand systemic changes, to declare that this is not the peace you desire, the neighborly love you taught. Let us be the neighbor that steps out, that knocks on the door to introduce ourselves, to listen and to get to know each other, the time to grow close and invite them, to knock on our door, to be welcomed in for a meal, for protection, for relationship, to pause for a moment of prayer together. Yet for now, in silence, we pause to grieve the loss of those 10 women and men in Buffalo. As we end our silence, we speak up as one people looking for guidance to our calling. We ask you, Spirit, to reveal our privilege and biases that we might confess. We ask you, Jesus, to show us the doors on which we should knock. We ask you, Creator, to bring new life and new hope out of this tragedy. Don't let us miss this opportunity again. Amen.
You can remain seated, but we'll sing together a song that reminds us that our work as Christians is not just to wish for a better world, but to be a part of making it. Lord, make me an instrument of peace, an instrument of peace. We sing that, Lord. Lord, make me an instrument of peace, an instrument of peace. Where there is hatred, let me sow love. Where there is darkness, let me sow light. For in the giving we shall receive, and in the dying we're given life. Make me an instrument of peace, an instrument of peace. Lord, make me an instrument of peace, an instrument of peace. Where there is sorrow, let me sow hope. Where there is doubt, let me sow faith. Where there is injury, your pardon give, your consolation to those in pain. Lord, make me an instrument of peace, an instrument of peace. One more, Lord. Lord, make me an instrument of peace, an instrument of peace. Amen. Amen.
All sound beautiful this morning. Truly, truly. Thank you for dealing with our technology too. Fun stuff. Okay, genre. You got to hear earlier, I'm a big fan of classical music, but also like Brad Paisley. Only in the summer though. Like it gets to be summer and I go searching my music for Brad Paisley music. My wife and I, though, are big fans of sitcoms. Any sitcom fans out there? So we have a busy life. We both have full-time jobs. We have 3 kids at home, and when we get to the end of the day, we get all the kids in bed. We're just like wiped. And so we usually head downstairs, turn on the TV, and we got to stream something just to like decompress from the day. We don't watch a whole lot of movies at home because we get to the end of the day, and I might bring up a movie option, and Chelsea's like, that's too much of a commitment. Too much of a commitment. And so what we do is we find some TV show to watch, and it's almost always a sitcom because it's got to be light. At the end of a hard day, it's got to be something light and funny, right? Well, a couple years ago, some friends of ours recommended a non-sitcom show to us called New Amsterdam. Any New Amsterdam fans out there? All right, yeah, Ryan. we got a few New Amsterdam fans. So New Amsterdam is not a sitcom. New Amsterdam is a medical drama, and it focuses on this hospital in New York City. And the story begins, it's actually based on a true story, originally based on a true story. But the story begins, the series begins with a new medical director being brought into the New Amsterdam hospital. And he is being brought in there to kind of shake things up a bit. Now, what happens is he shakes things up more than what even the hospital board was really anticipating. You see, what Dr. Max Goodwin does when he comes in is he says, I actually want to place our patients and our providers first instead of money, which the hospital board isn't exactly thrilled about, but it makes for compelling drama, right? Well, every step of the way, every time something comes up, Max Goodwin, as the medical director, he doesn't try to shift it off to somebody else. He doesn't try to say, hand it off to this doctor or to this nurse or whoever might be able to do with it. Dr. Max shows up and he says this line, how can I help? I'd be interested to know how many times in every show, every episode, he shows up and says, how can I help? I absolutely love that line. How can I help? He's not even sure what he can do or if he'll be able to do anything, but he asks the question. He goes out of his way to ask the question, how can I help? So like I mentioned earlier, we are in the middle of this series which we've been calling Back to Basics, which is an opportunity for us to say, rather than going back to normal, what are the most important things now that have always been the most important things? Rather than rushing back to this hypothetical normal, what if we instead said, let's focus on our values, the things that are most important. So we have spent these last several weeks focusing on our values as a church, which we also think are pretty good values for us as individuals. And to do that, we have been looking at the story of the exile and the return from exile. The exile was this stake in the ground moment for the people of Israel and Judah when they were forcibly removed from their home, brought to a foreign land, removed from everything that was familiar. Nothing was going to be the same. And what it meant was they had to rethink who they were, who God was, and what the world was actually like. 2 weeks ago, we talked about our first value, which is about nurturing healing, wholeness, and beauty, which is like the experience of grace. The exiles are given the opportunity to go back to Jerusalem. Most of them don't go, but the few who do go have this vision in their mind. They have this belief, this conviction that grace is still possible. That the goodness of God is still possible, if not just for them, then for the people who might come after them. So they decide to return. Last week, we talked about our value of expanding our circle of inclusion. For those who went back, there was this open question of how are we going to relate to people who are different from us? As we rebuild, are we simply going to rebuild walls to keep other people out, people who are not like us out? Or are we going to rebuild with gates that allow other people to come in, trusting that we're actually going to be better off for the people who arrive behind us? So that is like a conversation that continues for literally hundreds of years. What are they going to do? But when they arrive, they have a job to do. They have to begin rebuilding. That was part of the agreement that they made that allowed them to come back. Yes, you can leave Babylon, you can go back to Jerusalem, but you gotta get to work. So that story is told in a couple different books that we have in the Old Testament. One is Ezra, which we've read from a couple times, and then also the book of Nehemiah. So here's how that rebuilding, here's a little bit of what that rebuilding was like. This is from Nehemiah chapter 3. Okay, I'm just going to apologize because these names are ridiculous. Then Eliashib, the high priest, and his priestly colleagues arose and built the sheep gate. They dedicated it and erected its doors, working as far as the Tower of the 100 and the Tower of Hanel. The men of Jericho built adjacent to it, and Zachar, son of Imri, built adjacent to them. The sons of Hassenaah rebuilt the fish gate. They laid its beams and positioned its doors, its bolts, and its bars. Merimeth, son of Uriah, the son of Hakaz, worked on the section adjacent to them. Meshullam, son of Berechiah, the son of Meshabzabel, worked on the section next to them. And Zadok, son of Baana, worked on the section adjacent to them. The men of Tekoa worked on the section adjacent to them, but their town leaders would not assist with the work of their master. Joiada, son of Paseah, and Meshullam, son of Besodeiah, worked on the Geshana gate. They laid its beams and positioned its doors, its bolts, and its bars. Adjacent to them worked Melatiah, the Gibeonite, and Jadon, the Merathite, who were men of Gibeon and Mizpah. These towns were under the jurisdiction of the governor of Trans-Euphrates. Uzziel, son of Harhiah, the member of the goldsmiths' guild, worked on the section adjacent to him. Hananiah, a member of the perfumers' guild, worked on the section adjacent to him. They plastered the city's wall of Jerusalem as far as the broad wall. Raphiah, son of Hur, head of the half-district of Jerusalem, worked on the section adjacent to them. We're stopping there. That was only 9 verses. There's another 23 that follow this. Same stuff. Names, what they're doing, the stuff that they're working with as they're rebuilding, and then they keep working along the wall. Here's who was working there and what they were doing. Here's who was working there and what they were doing. Here's who was working there and what they were doing. So there's these names of these people, these names of these tribes that are included who are getting to work on the building and the rebuilding. You hear about the specific projects that they're working on. There's beams and doors and bolts and bars. Here's what they're using for the actual construction. Holy cow. Who has any interest in that? Any of you have any interest in that? You don't know these people. You don't, unless you can envision what the Wall of Jerusalem is like. You don't know what the actual projects are. Why on earth would we care about this? It almost feels like a list, a project list, and then the accompanying Menards shopping list. Here's the people. Here's the project. Here's the people who are responsible for the project. Here's what they got to go to Menards to get. Who on earth has any interest in this? Why is this important to include in our Bible? Well, here's the deal. These exiles have come back, and they are finding a place to plug in. They're finding a place to get involved, to use their gifts and passions to contribute to something that is bigger than themselves. They're not just sitting around. They're not just like we talked about the first week. They're not back in Babylon where they're sitting by the shores of Babylon weeping because things haven't gone their way. They've shown up. They're getting to work. They're doing something. It's almost as if they've shown up and said, "How can I help?" There's this idea, this conviction maybe even, that when we get involved in something, we do so because we have these deep convictions or values or thoughts about that specific thing. We're so invested in it, and that's why we do this thing. So a couple examples, the people who go out and protest something. They go out and protest because they have these deeply held values about this thing that they are protesting. You might even say this about church. You show up for church because you have these deeply held convictions and values and beliefs, and so this is why you show up. What's actually the case is that a lot of the time, if not most of the time, that's actually exactly backwards. Sociologists call this the biological consequences. Anybody heard of biological consequences before? So the idea is this. Actually, the way that a lot of people's convictions and values and ideas about the world are formed not through like already previously having these ideas, but are formed by their experiences, by getting involved in something. And it starts to shape the way they see themselves, the way they see the world, maybe even the way that they see God. So, for instance, a protest. You might show up for a protest because a friend invites you. You might be like fine with why you're going there, but a friend invites you. You might be excited about the energy behind it. It's something that's going on in your town, and so you show up for it. And what we find is that the people who participate in movements like that, they then develop, because of their participation, these deep set values and beliefs and convictions that they did not have before. The same thing might be true about church. You might show up for church because a friend invited you, because someone in your family invited you, because you may have seen a parking lot that was filled on a Sunday morning. You may have noticed some energy, and it was something that you wanted to check out. You may not have had any belief or value, like any religious context whatsoever. But then you show up, and you get involved, and you like wade in the water, and it's through that participation with other people that you start to develop these values and these convictions that change the way you view yourself, the way you view the world, and maybe even the way that you view God. The Grove is a part of, our denomination is the United Methodist Church, which is part of a larger movement called Wesleyanism, founded originally based on the teachings of a guy named John Wesley. Old dead white dude. There's been a lot of old dead white dudes throughout history who have said some unhelpful things that now we look back, we're like, that's not great. One of the things that John Wesley said that has kind of continued in the people who's followed his tradition, and now we would say as a church that we have adopted, is this idea that the words that he actually used was social holiness. There is no holiness, there is no like uprightness in yourself except that which is active in the world. It is like fundamental that your faith is lived out. Believing is not enough. You have to actually live it out in very practical ways. And so in the United Methodist Church, when a person becomes a member, they take what are called membership vows. And one of the things that you, when you become a member of a United Methodist Church, vow to do is this. You vow to faithfully participate in its ministries by your prayers, your presence, your gifts, your service, and your witness. These are very active things, right? So when you show up at the Grove, when it becomes apparent that you're like seeing this place as your home base, that maybe the Grove, Cottage Grove, is the place that you're going to consider as your home church, we don't immediately go to you and say, are you sure that you agree on these 9 beliefs? And we're going to have you stand up in front of everybody and explain those 9 beliefs. One of the first things that we say to folks, that I have said to many of you, is, how can we get you involved? And this is not because we have all of these positions where we need to plug you in, where we absolutely need volunteers. Don't get me wrong. We need volunteers in very specific positions in order to do what we do. We need children's ministry volunteers to help with all of those kids out there. We need people to be available for hospitality when you walk in to feel welcome. We need that. But that's not primarily why we say we want you to get involved. The idea is that by getting involved, you are making meaningful connections with other people, but you are also using your gifts and talents and your passions in a way that will help you to fit and flourish yourself. Your involvement contributes to the experience and growth of the people who are already here. Your involvement contributes to the experience and growth of the people who are not yet here and might be arriving next. But your involvement also contributes to your own experience and growth. When you say, "How can I help?" you're helping other people, but in some ways you're actually helping to develop yourself as well. Some of you know that I recently accepted a new gig as a soccer coach here in Cottage Grove. Here's me pretending I know what I'm doing. So I recently started coaching my youngest daughter's soccer team, U4, U5, here in Cottage Grove. I've coached before. This is my first experience coaching youth soccer, though. There's a couple reasons for that. One is that our oldest daughter just started playing soccer last year, so I didn't have that opportunity to coach her team. The other reason I've never coached youth soccer before is I have no idea what I'm doing. I have no idea, I have almost no idea what's going on with soccer. I grew up in rural northwest Wisconsin. We had no soccer program, no even youth soccer program. I was a football player who made fun of soccer players, okay? But then this opportunity comes up. They need a coach. They're looking for coaches. And I have a little bit of time on my hands. These are only 4 and 5-year-olds, so I don't have to know a whole lot. I have experience coaching, and so I'm like, how can I help? Why not get involved with this? Now, I've done my homework as much as I can. There's training materials that they provide. I've read through and looked at all of those training materials. I do it before every one of our practices as well. I've rewatched the 2 seasons of Ted Lasso to prepare, getting my soccer coaching ready. I went out and I bought my first soccer uniform or shirt, whatever. Minnesota United, go Loons. I did these things to prepare to be ready to coach these young kids. And yet I also was convinced, you know what, the most important thing is not just for them to develop all these skills. The most important thing is for them to have fun and them to learn. And so at that first practice, we did not work on a bunch of different skills and stuff. We sat in a circle. I sat crisscross applesauce with these 4 and 5-year-olds, and we talked about each other's names, each other's favorite animals, each other's favorite color, and what we wanted the team name to be. Go Shooting Stars. I'm not the best soccer coach. I'm not going to be. We have a much better soccer coach right over here. Coach Anna. She knows what she's doing. She's experienced. I'm never going to be the best soccer coach. And yet, because I said, how can I help? I'm going to be able to help provide these kids an opportunity to learn and grow. And you know who else is going to learn and grow too? This guy. One of these things that we have been workshopping here at the Grove, one of these sayings that I don't think we've ever said publicly, is the idea that participation is the new perfection. We do not want to fill all of these positions all over this church building and outside this church building with well-paid professionals. That's not a win for us. We're not trying to put on a great grand show. What is a win is for us to find people who want to get involved using their gifts and passions in a way that is going to help other people grow and to help them grow. And we call this, among other things, cultivating the common good. That it is for us, but it's also for much more than us. The win is being able to get people involved in something that they're going to use their gifts and passions. They're going to be able to contribute to something that is much bigger than themselves. So as a part of this series, we've done 2 different things at the end of each one of the messages. The first one is revealing an icon, which is going up on those panels right outside these doors, and you're not going to be able to see it. There it is. Take a quick, did you get it? You'll be able to walk out and look at it. So it's a watering can, right? And the idea is that cultivating the common good, just like cultivating a garden, it's work. And it takes time and it takes investment. And sometimes it's as slow as like individual drops. But over time, if you pay attention to it, something beautiful is going to grow that is going to benefit, hopefully, not just yourself, but lots of other people. And then the second thing that we have done each one of these weeks is hear from one of the newer people to the Grove and their story and how it connects to this value. So this week we get to hear from the Ball family if it's going to work. Yeah, you can listen. Crank it up.
So we switched to the Grove in Woodbury, and we heard about this church, and we're like, it's closer to our house, let's try it now. And we got hooked from there.
I think partially also we were looking for a place that felt like closer to home, both like emotionally but also geographically.
I really like working in the tech booth. It's really fun. And
I enjoy the songs.
I enjoy the sermons myself. I love being challenged and being asked to think critically about stories and think about the ways that maybe we haven't thought about them before. I always feel like I'm treated like a smart person coming in, that it's not just, here, let me tell you what to believe now.
I love the feel of the church. It just feels, we talked about how it feels like scrappy. Like, it's a good place to figure out what you think and what you believe. And I really like that about this church.
Kids are really welcome. It's just fun, okay?
People come from all kinds of different faith experiences and backgrounds, and there's no wrong way to walk in the door.
Because it's new and everybody is learning and everybody is getting to know each other. So you're part of something, part of a new movement.
You also get really good stage directions. Like, they're going to tell you, okay, now we're going to stand up, and now we're going to sing a song, and now we're going to do this thing, and why?
There's nothing to fear at the Grove. They're just inclusive, and you won't feel left out.
I think it's aggressively welcoming. It's friendly and warm and accepting, and if you're looking for a way to contribute to growing goodness, you can plug in and feel connected and feel welcomed right away.
The Balls are not here today, but let's give them a hand anyways. Little Theo would not stop talking. So I had to do a lot of video editing to get it down to 2 minutes and 38 seconds. That's fantastic. The fact that their kids can feel welcomed and encouraged, and they can find a place to belong as well. Alex, who you may have seen just a little bit, Alex is often in the tech desk in the back. He just turned 12 this week. He's running the cameras and resetting the presets on the camera so that other people who are much older than him are able to get involved. So as we gather this new community, as we come out of this pandemic, what could matter more now, and always has, than cultivating the common good, finding a place for you to contribute in a way that is not, yes, for yourself, but also much beyond yourself. If you are looking for ways to get involved, we've got a list, a web page with all of these different things for all of these different teams that we have. And I would encourage you, in just a moment, the baskets are going to go around. You can drop in the basket your insert and just put volunteer opportunities, and I will follow up with you, and we'll find a place. If you don't know your gifts or passions, you're like, I think I want to get involved, but I don't know what to do. I don't know what I'm good at. Check that as well, and I will follow up with you. And I do this thing called Strengths Finder coaching, where we take an assessment, and I walk through, here are the things that make you unique and where you might be able to leverage those strengths to do really good, really fun things to contribute to the common good. So, may that be so. Let's close in worship.
All right, so Rachel and Chad, you guys can go ahead and receive the offering and receive those papers. And hey, obviously we're having a little bit of an issue here. It's gonna be hard to sing the last song together because lyrics. But we've done this one a few times before, so hopefully you've heard it a little bit and are familiar. And what if could we review the chorus with them, and that way at least y'all will be able to sing the choruses with us. So the words are, let the light in. Repeat that, try that. Let the light in. Keep it shining. Let it break into the darkness.
Let it break into the darkness.
All that love
All the love
dares us to see,
dares us to see
we'll all be free.
will all be free.
All right, so you know it a little bit now. So when we get there, we'll try and sing it together. Let's start off with that chorus just one time, actually. Let the light in, keep it shining. Let it break into the darkness. All that love dares us to see, we'll all be free. Let the light in. Let the light in, keep it shine. Let it break into the darkness. All that love dares us to see, we'll all be free. All right, y'all stand. If nothing else, you can stand and sway, enjoy the music, and then we'll join each other on the choruses. There's a world at war, caught in suffering, silent casualties. Oh God, grant us peace. In these sleepless nights, I can hardly breathe. Despite brutality, I know that we'll be free. I know that we'll be free. Let the light in, keep it shining. Let it break into the dark. All that love dares us to see, we'll all be free. Let the light in, keep it shining. Let it break into the dark. All that love dares us to see, we'll all be free. In these desperate times, love will hold us here. Love will join our hands, teach us to have no fear. So we lay our hate down to wash their feet. When we see our brother, oh, we'll all be free. Yes, we'll all be free. Yeah. Let the light in, keep it shining. Let it break into the darkness. All that love dares us to see, we'll all be free. Let the light in, keep it shining. Let it break into the darkness. All that love dares us to see, we'll all be free. Okay, next part's easy. We just say, we'll be free, we'll be free, we'll all be free. Okay? We'll be free, free, we'll all be free. We'll be free, free, we'll all be free. We are free, we are free, free, we'll all be free. We are free, free, we'll all be free. see. We'll all be free. One more. Let the light in, keep it shining. Let it break into the darkness. All the love dares us to see. We'll all be free. We'll all be free. We'll all be free. Hey, give yourself a hand. Y'all kept up. Good job.
Just remember that some people say that our scrappiness is an asset. Not many times the pastor is underneath the desk unplugging things to try to figure it out. Seriously, that was phenomenal. You being patient with us. We'll get it figured out. And then 2 weeks, we're going to be outside anyways, right? So today is Sunday. I feel like I'm announcing a monster truck rally or something. We have ice cream being set up with all sorts of toppings out here. So plan to stay after for a while, enjoy ice cream, enjoy each other's presence as well. The one announcement beyond that is get involved. Again, if you're looking for a place to get plugged in, we have those opportunities. Either fill out that form. If you didn't drop it in the basket, you can drop it in the baskets at the back as we're walking out. Otherwise, just connect with me right afterwards, and we'll find a place for you to use your gifts and passions. So with that, most of you are already standing anyway, so I'll have you extend your hands as you're able. And today for our sending blessing, I'm going to be using what's called A Prayer in Times of Violence. What book is this from, Katie?
It's a book of prayer by a faith community way off in Ireland. It's that guy Padri Gotoma, or we don't know how to say his name. That guy.
We've done one before. You're not probably going to be able to read it behind me, but you can listen as I read this closing blessing. A prayer in times of violence. God of all humanity, in times of violence, we see how inhumane we can be. We pray for those who today are weighed down by grief. We pray for those who yesterday were weighed down by grief, and the day before, and all the days before the day before. We pray too for those who help us turn towards justice and peace, turn us all towards justice and peace, because we need it. Amen. Let it be so.